Good evening, everyone. We're reconvening the special meeting of February 26, 2024 of the Dubuque Community School District Board of Education. Welcome.
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education approve the executed construction contract bonds and certificate of insurance with Park Associates, Inc., DBA Park Planet for the Audubon Elementary Playground Replacement Project in the amount of $294,345.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the executed construction contract, bonds, and certificate of insurance with Park Associates Incorporated DBA Park Planet for the Audubon Elementary Playground Replacement Project in the amount of $294,345. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education approve the name of the new preschool center as Seedlings Preschool Center.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the name of the new preschool center as Seedlings Preschool Center. Is there any discussion?
I would find it interesting to know more about the process.
So I'll take that. Thank you, board members. As you saw in your packet, I just think I always like to start with process, and as you said, Nancy, the process that we went through for this. So as a district, we engaged multiple stakeholders and the early childhood team to talk about a name for the new center, which, as you know, is located on Chavanel Road in the former Medline building. And so you can see on the screen here, as we started that process, we always like to start with the framework first. And so we looked at what were the considerations for naming a new center. So those were to recognize the focus on early childhood learning and childcare, symbolize the growth and development of children, symbolize setting a foundation for success, distinguish the site and its partnership as unique, taking into consideration the names of other area centers and early childhood centers, to provide terminology that creates common awareness, be aspirational in its tone and feeling, allow for a strong ability to build community and affinity with students and families served there, and to acknowledge the unique characteristics of the site, in particular its proximity to the nature area and to the industrial park. So as you see, we bring forward to you tonight the recommendation of Seedlings Preschool Center. To give you an alternate, as we do by board policy, we would say Seedlings Preschool would be our alternate, and if you'd wish us to go beyond that, we would go back to the drawing board and talk through other options. But we engaged, this was a multi-month process to really look at options for this. You can see just a little snippet of content there, but we believe that this will give us the ability to move forward in a way that helps build that affinity with the students and families who are there. We've talked to Susan and the early childhood team and the others who will be, there really delivering programming to make sure that that fits with the tone that we wish to achieve there. And we believe that it does that. So we would bring that forward for your approval. And then just so that I don't forget to mention it, when we get past that part, we thought that it might be best to just do the rest of the preschool update for you tied to the strategic planning right after this, since they're obviously in connection with each other. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, but hopefully that gives you a sense of the process.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's so important to have a broad base of input into it, and I appreciate that our early childhood educators were among those who did. Thank you.
I must say, I love this. The Seedlings is rooted in the spirit of planting and nourishing the seeds of learning with students as they blossom into a lifetime of success.
Yeah, it's really good.
Really well.
And of course, this really sets that foundation. And what we'll do upon your approval is really continue to build out creative. That really is intended to be some sample content to give you a flavor of the intention behind it. So with your approval, then we'll continue all the next steps of building that out.
Good.
Susan's really anxious for like a logo or something, so.
It's so cute.
Yeah, I know.
But I do, I love the description and just
Yes.
the feeling that it gives about early childhood, so, yeah.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. It's the cutest. I think it's the cutest motion we've ever had.
One of my favorites.
And I just want to recognize both Mike and Tricia too for everything that they've done to get that organized and get input and to put that together. It's been a process. And some people were on board and then they weren't, and then, you go back and forth. And so there's been some good ideas, but I'm really happy with what we landed on. So great work. Thank you. Come on up, Lisa. So as Mike had said, tonight, when we go through our update, we go through the priority initiatives. And then as you know, like in the past, I tried to bring in some live people that are actually doing the work to come in and talk to you, so you don't have to listen to me the entire evening. And so we're gonna skip down to that priority initiative, number 13, since we're talking about the preschool, and let Lisa go ahead and share the update on the new preschool center. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. So to back up, back in 21-22, this is all the work that was developed from the Belief Grant. So the blended early learning in educational foundations, and it was the whole premise of birth through 5 years old would have a great facility with options of wraparound care as well as high-quality educational opportunities. So in partnership with Dubuque Initiatives as well as Community Y Care, this is all coming to life, and we're really proud of the momentum we have in this project. Just a couple things to recap. The main colors in the preschool center are blue, green, yellow, red, and purple. And that's to integrate the bright and playful and colorful environment. And those colors are added into the floor tiles, it's in the cabinetry in the classrooms, it's in the student chairs, it's really bright and vibrant. And it also connects to our Dubuque Community School District logo, so it all ties together really nicely. One of the things that we've spent quite a lot of time on here recently is incorporating that colorful setting as well as nature and environment into designing the playground that will be there. And so as you'll notice, these are the renderings from what we've designed for the playground. And you'll notice if you look at the top left quadrant, there's the inclusion of a butterfly and a tree, kind of that alludes to the nature piece. You will notice that this playground incorporates fine motor, gross motor, imaginative play. There is green space. There is a track all the way around it for standards and trikes and all the great things that we want kids to experience at that age developmentally when they go out to play. There's a climbing wall. There's just all sorts of gears and gadgets, musical things for them to interact with. We have the shade portion as well for some of our areas. I think one of the things that we're also pretty excited about is through the state-approved use of some of our statewide voluntary preschool program dollars. We've been approved to have the rubberized landing. So this becomes fully accessible for all students. We will not be dealing with wood chips or whatever. The wheelchairs will be able to go in and under all the things. You'll notice it's blue and green if you look at the bottom. It would be on the right. It's a spinner, and it's great because a student that cannot have back support, like needs support to sit upright, can go in there with a peer. So it's all designed to really make things accessible for all kids, which we're really excited about. The interior is the same way, fully accessible, and we have a track on the inside that goes around the interior classrooms. We will also have the sensory rooms. So we're just really integrating all these pieces throughout the entire facility as well as the grounds that students will be able to have those experiences on. The inside is coming along just as expected. I mean, it doesn't look anything like it's going to as of yet, but we're getting there. And we go ahead and we continue to meet as needed for just those fine-tune intricacies of the building. So for example, in a classroom, what should the height of the drawer be for storage? Little things like that actually, they mean a lot to educators when they're in the room and making the most use of it. Of course, we have Susan Meehan named as our principal. So we're very fortunate and happy to have Susan be the leader of Seedlings Preschool Center. I can say that now. I'm so excited. And we're working on posting 5 classroom teacher positions as well as a secretary for that building. Currently, enrollment, we are working on that enrollment process. It is a great opportunity in place for families that need that wraparound care to access that and get enrolled in. So we're really happy with where we're at right now and continuing to move forward. So do you have any questions about the preschool center, Seedlings Preschool Center?
Lisa, I hear you say 5 teacher positions. Am I correct that there are 10 classrooms being built?
Yes, so there are 10 classrooms being built, all with the idea that once we get going, we're very confident that we will be filling those. So to get started, we're going with 5. If we need more, for example, summer hits and our enrollment bumps, then, we'll go from there. So as we need it, we will continue to fill all those spaces.
And custodian positions will be added, I presume, too?
Yes, there's lots of positions where we will be able to share with current positions that are already out there. There will be other postings that will pop up too. We're just working through the details right now. I think one of the biggest things is really working on getting our teaching staff in place as well as the secretary and our principal, and then we'll move forward from there. All right.
Thank you for all the work that's going into this. It looks incredible just already from what we can tell from the playground. So
Doesn't
I'm
it look
excited to see
awesome?
what it looks like when it's done.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. So now we'll move forward with the priority initiatives for the 23-24 school year. And our process has been that we go through these 3 times a year to show you where our progress is. And the progress is noted right on that red line down the sheet. So you can see that if something's completed, operational, has had significant progress, steady progress, some progress, or we've canceled that priority initiative. So there's the key that kind of goes through as we go down and talk through them. Again, I know it seems kind of clunky sometimes, but what's really nice to have our guest speakers to come up first, because they've been working all day, and I know they want to get home to their families. So I know that this next person cannot wait to come up and share with you. And so Julia Jorgensen, who's our principal at Hempstead, she found out she's on TV tonight, so Julia, you can wave to the camera. But Julia's gonna talk about our priority initiative number 5. So Julia, the floor is yours. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. So we've tried really hard at Hempstead this year for all of our professional learning to be really focused around that optimal learning environment. So I'm just going to talk about some of the things that we've done this year. We started the year with some colors training, which if you have not gone through that, it is a training to kind of learn about your communication style, how that communication style is perceived, and how you perceive other communication styles. And Mike Size was one of our amazing
And Tammy Deere is
trainers.
back
And Tammy
there.
Deere, who was also in the room. Yes, they were our amazing trainers. And that really helped with our CLC process and teachers working together, and then really translated into teachers still talk about, well, this student, I think probably communicates this way, which is why we have a little bit of a barrier in figuring out how to get through those barriers with different students. So I think that was a really effective training for our staff. I really do recommend it for every school to go through with their staff for. From our guiding coalition, we developed a social emotional behavioral health task force team in our building, which focused the beginning of the year on Character Strong, which is our new curriculum for SEBH that we do in our advisory once a month. And we were discovering that maybe some barriers for teachers were not just the new curriculum, but how to connect with the kids in their advisory that they only see once a week, which is pretty tough, right? So we came up with some professional learning to do with our 9th grade group, 10th grade group, 11th grade, 12th grade group, which every teacher in the building is assigned to one of those age levels, and you move with those kids, so you're with them every 4 years. And that training, we stopped focusing on Character Strong and just started focusing on strategies for the classroom and different ways to connect with kids. And we had many teachers come out of that day talking about not just ways to connect with their advisory kids, but ways that they knew they would use those strategies in their classrooms as well. So I think that has definitely translated into classrooms. Something that I did not think would create a sense of belonging was some assemblies. We've tried to have a few more assemblies this year, and we have them during our support time. We have them I think we have 3 a semester is I think what I finally agreed to. And I have students tell me who I'm not sure are really involved in anything, how much they love assemblies and how much they love seeing the whole school together and how they feel a sense of belonging in those assemblies. And so I think just having that fun together in school is good for the kids and the adults, and sort of created a sense of belonging for some kids that I didn't realize would really happen. I was a doubter. I'm not going to lie about that, but it's been really good. And then we had some pretty intense equity training with Liza and Antonio, which our guiding coalition went through. And a lot of that we talked a lot about how to make sure we have equitable practices in our classrooms and how to really make sure that we're reaching all the kids in our classrooms. And that training is going to be pushed out to all staff in April, so we haven't really started with our whole staff yet. But I think little things have happened that have come from that training, and conversations have happened with some of our Guiding Coalition members and other staff members in the building. And I think it's those little things that really will create that more positive culture in the building, that it's not going to be a one and done, but that it's going to be all these little things that we trickle in. So I think we have a really good core group in our Guiding Coalition and people who care a lot about the direction of Hempstead. And so I think that them going through that training was super beneficial, and then coming up with our plan to move forward in April with our whole staff more and incorporating beyond that. But our first Friday morning professional learning that we'll have with the whole staff is in April. I think all these little things that we have done is pushing that positive culture in the building. And I have no data to support, but I've had lots of parents over conferences and at open house and coaches tell me that there's just this different vibe in the building and different feeling in the building. And I do think it's a bunch of these little things working together. So any questions for me?
We just want to commend you for the great work you're doing at Hempstead.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It is always tooting your horn, and
Thank
I
you.
love that you're doing assemblies. These kids like to get together.
Yeah, they do. Yes.
It's a time they can not have to go to class, but
Right.
it's also unity. I
Yeah,
mean, you're
it
bringing
is.
them in the room.
And we have figured out a good way, like using that support time. It's 32 minutes, which honestly is a really good amount of time for an assembly.
Yeah.
You know, and not having to change our whole schedule and changing lunches, you know, like all those different things that you'd have to adjust. So it has,
That's a great positive
that time has really worked out
activity.
well. Yeah.
So
So,
thank you.
yeah, thanks.
Thanks,
Okay,
Julia.
thank you.
Yeah. Next up, we're gonna talk about priority initiative number 9 under community engagement. And Mimi and Shirley are gonna come up and lead us in this discussion.
I'm going to let Shirley go first because she has the first couple nights.
Okay, last fall in October, we did another Marshallese Career Learning Connection Night. And this was a really special night because we targeted students in grades 8 to 12 and their families. And we actually planned that night with the Marshallese community. And there you can see the flyer, and notice we had it translated. So I know what's there because I kind of wrote a lot of that. But the Marshallese community used the QR code, and they signed up for it, or I should say the children of the community signed up their parents, because many of the parents didn't know how to use the QR codes. And we really had two prongs with this. We really wanted to make our students who are Marshallese aware of career opportunities in the high school, and that's really a push to get them, A, better attendance, and B, to graduate from our high schools. So our ELL teachers, our school counselors, our Vertex coaches called in every single student who is Marshallese in grades 8 to 12, personally invited them to come, and then sat down with them and talked about the 3 sessions we were offering and got them signed up for one. Then we also asked our youth to invite their parents, so lots of push to get parents to come. So then, as we were planning with members of the Marshallese community, and we had a really good turnout, typically we would have somewhere between 5 and 10 Marshallese community members attend each of our planning sessions, and we asked them what it is they wanted to know about our school district, and they told us. They said, we don't know how to download apps onto our phone to get into Infinite Campus. We don't know how to get the messages on Parent Square. And so we said, okay. And then we had stations, so we could work one-to-one. A number of our IT people and secretaries came that night, so we could personalize what they wanted to know. We could lead them through and do it. And the other piece that I did, because they said, tell us about school attendance, and I did that in the spring. Last year we had another night similar to this, and so I showed them what attendance for their students looked like in our school. Again, showed them graduation rate and encouraged them to come in, talk to us, ask questions, let them know that we want children in school every day, all day, on time, and not only in school, but attending classes. And so this was a really good start with that. We had a wonderful turnout. We had 80 participants, which was really good for a school night. And you can see kind of by the schedule, 5 p.m. is when we open the doors. We welcome them, and at 5:15, because what they told us is prayer is important to them, and they wanted to be at the Multicultural Family Center, so we partnered with them. And they brought forth one of their ministers who opened their prayer. Then we had a meal, very simple, pizza, beverages, and cookies. And so we gave them time to sit, have community, and eat. Then we did our breakout sessions, and at the end of the night, if you've never been to a Marshallese community gathering, they're such a warm and loving people. They come together, they sing, they thank us, and it really feels like they were grateful for everything we did, and we are certainly grateful that we have their beautiful children in our schools. So that was a success, and they've asked us for more. They said this is a good time for us to come together and really to have conversations with people from school. And so we took careful notes, and we thanked them for their input. On the heels of that, we had another night, November 2nd, at the Roosevelt Auditorium. It was Suicide Prevention, a Message of Hope and Recovery. The entire week, the last week of October, first few days of November, we had a speaker sponsored by the Duck Cup Memorial Fund come into all of our middle and high schools. And she talked about having a lot of traumatic experiences as a child and really not having hope of getting through her life. She also had her mother die at a very early age, a dad who traveled, and so no one was really present for her after her mother passed away. And so her message really resonated good, because she talked about how she got out of that depressed, kind of suicidal state, and how she had hope and is in recovery. She's 25 years old, and so she really resonated with our youth. And then Thursday, November 2nd, we had for parents in our Roosevelt Auditorium. We had many agencies, a few of them are named at the bottom, that came in and set up booths. We wanted our audience to know that if they needed a place to go, if they needed resources, that we had provided enough agencies who were willing to come, that they could talk to someone and get in and get seen right away. So after Kristen, who spoke to all of our schools, spoke, she again delivered the message of hope and recovery. We had a panel discussion, and it was local kind of experts. We had a parent in Bootsier who had lost a son to suicide. We had Dr. Michael Prosky, if any of you know him. He is a leader in our brain health community and very well respected. Then Kristen Nolan, who is a brain health retreat room liaison from Senior. Dan Powers, who was a counselor, now an assistant principal. So they talked a little bit, and then we had a Q&A with the audience, and if you were there, it was incredibly moving. We had heartfelt questions coming from the community, and even though we didn't have a large audience, I believe we counted about 130, Mimi counted for me, I think it was 130 altogether. It was very impactful for the people that came. The one thought that kind of hangs with me is some of our agencies who were there have been to a lot of these through the years. They're seasoned, they told me. They said if we would have done this 5 or 10 years ago, we would have been lucky to have 10, maybe 15 people. If we really had a good night, we might have had 20 people. So given the fact that we had 130 people come out, was really a success. It is a start. We've lost way too many students to suicide. We need to continue this work, but we had a great start to it.
I wish I had so many details, but this event is tomorrow night, so I won't be able to give you the summary on how it went. I'll just tell you what we think is going to happen. So it's tomorrow night at Washington. The first thing that's going to happen is that adults only, this is a Hidden in Plain Sight event, so it's adults only, will attend a program where visiting nurses, Vicki Gassman from Visiting Nurse Association will talk about vaping, and then we'll have the Dubuque Drug Task Force will be speaking after Vicki. So the program in the auditorium, and then people will move to an interactive resource fair, which the Dubuque Police really have taken the lead on a lot of this. Jason Horner, who's the DARE officer, will have his brand-new pedal carts, kind of impairment carts for adults to drive. He'll have impairment goggles. He has a Hidden in Plain Sight display, which is set up kind of as a child's bedroom, and you can look at ways that students may hide things, so that is a parent-only event. We also will have, Shirley, when I saw your flyer, it kind of reminded me, Shirley really set a good base at that last event of community agencies. When I called many of these community agencies, they were thinking and saying like, yeah, that was a great event last time, we're right on board. So we have about 11 to 12 community agencies joining us. The police are really bringing quite a bit between their drug task force, the crisis intervention team, and the SROs. They'll have quite a bit of representation there. So we feel really great about the community agencies that have stepped up to join us. So other than that, I don't know how it's going to go, but I'd be happy to report out after the event.
Again, I just really appreciate that you're putting these events together for our community. If you can see on the report out, it says it has significant progress. And the reason that it's not complete is because we plan to have some more as well. So I really appreciate your work on this, and I hope that people attend tomorrow night because I think it's going to be great information for families to see and hear.
Would there be like a recording just in case people can attend, or?
It's a good idea, Anderson. I hadn't thought of recording
least have one
the
of those a
presentation
year.
part. I think we could possibly make their PowerPoints available. That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, for our special guest tonight, we've invited Greg Lehman, who is the Jefferson principal, to come in, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about virtual learning days and how that went over in his school,
Sure.
not only with students, but staff as well. So Greg, thanks for being here tonight.
Well, thanks for having me, and what a unique winter it has been for us. So
It's 72
all 2 weeks
today.
of it. So for me personally, I'm a little sad with this winter. I'm a skier, and it's been a tough year for me. So I'll try to make it through. For us, there was a recent legislative change where we can do virtual learning instead of just calling schools off. And now that secondary, I'll speak to that, we are one-to-one with devices, so we can access education differently than we've done in the past, and our students can access education differently. And so we tried this experiment of virtual days. And for us, and Ms. Lang has the numbers to back me up with this, we had a remarkable spike in students accessing Canvas and the online resources on those days. And Ms. Lang has it charted out. You can see the graph, and then on the days that we've had virtual learning, there's a noticeable spike. So our students are actually going in, logging in, and accessing their education with that. The virtual learning for our families, I think, is a positive. They're able to stay home and help with younger siblings, because we're middle school, they can help with younger kids and help them with their education as well. Surprising to me was, I thought I was gonna get all this work done on these virtual days. No kids, I could get all this stuff done, all these modules I need to do. I didn't get one of them done because staff were free. They were able to come down, and we were able to have those conversations that you just never have time to have. The collaboration between staff, being in the building together is important. It was important for them to be able to sit down together and talk about the assessments, talk about the kids. So for us, the virtual learning, and I'll speak to Jefferson, was very successful for us. It was an interesting experiment, and one that turned out very positive for our building. Secondary, we got together in one of the leadership meetings, so we were all following a similar schedule. So if your student was in high school or your child was in middle school, they had a similar schedule, so families a little clearer about when they can talk to teachers live, when they can do the homework on their own, and then at the end of the day, they were able to come back and again talk to teachers live and ask questions for that. Any questions for me about virtual days?
Do you know a percentage of how many of your students, the percentage that did sign in? You said there was an uptick, so did
Yeah, I don't.
80%, 90, 75?
We're in the upper 80s to low 90s with that. I've talked to individual teachers, and the math content, they did really well with that. Some of the other contents weren't as high, but students were clicking in on that math. I think partly because they're used to doing some of the online math and the online reading programs that we have, like iReady and things like that.
So a student that doesn't sign in, are they considered absent, or?
It was presumed attendance, so they were still marked in attendance that day. So, and students, speaking for Jefferson particularly, sometimes access to the internet is an issue for our families.
Right.
And we were able to overcome that with the hotspots that the district owns. So our families, at the beginning of the year, we reach out to them and they can get a hotspot so that they too will have internet access on those days.
So you're thinking 85% or 80 of
Yeah.
the students?
Yes, I would
Okay.
guess that. Julie, do you have any comment to that to help me with it?
So we have charts that Mike could provide to you that show the graphics of them
Sorry.
we do have this in chart format that Mike could share with you if you wanted to see it was really a huge gain. So we have things like 20,000 pages more being seen on those days. So that's how we're able to take that data.
Yeah, it was a noticeable spike on those days. So there's a lot of kids accessing their education that day.
Well, thanks, Greg. I appreciate you sharing with us.
Well, thanks for having me. Have a good evening.
And I'm hoping that you can't ski anymore. That's the goal.
One more weekend. Just one more.
So now we'll move forward with, I'll kind of go back up. I apologize for that. and then we'll skip over the ones that we've talked about already. As you know, these priority initiatives are what we develop at the end of the school year, and then we bring those forward at the beginning of the year, and we report out 3 times a year about the progress of those. So we report it out to you in October, we do it now in February, and then we'll do that again in May. So really, this is just an update. You all have probably way more details in your packets, but I just want to highlight a few things on each of these initiatives. So if we go to initiative number 1, it talks about implementing a multi-tier engagement and attendance plan, really to look at reducing barriers and how do we enhance supports for our students that are chronically absent. And so some things that we've done is we've gone through the Scallion Center to really give professional development to our counselors, our life coaches, our connectors, some of those liaison positions that help with why are students avoiding school and what are strategies to get kids to come to school or want to come to school, and again, strategies to work with families. There was professional learning presented to staff about how do we build relationships, not only with students, but with families. And then we had our counselors attend a training on Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions on how we can help students see how the importance of attendance. Number 2, as you can see, that also has steady progress. We're looking at how do we strengthen the multi-tier system of support, or our MTSS universal tier system, and how do we do that through professional development, and how do we use that to close learning gaps with our students. And so some different things that we did this year was at the elementary level, there was a focus on pre-K to 5 visual phonics. There's been a focus on Character Strong. You would hear Julia talk about that at the high schools for our SEL curriculum that was implemented at the high schools this year. Really, there's been work at all levels around differentiation and how do we look at multiple pathways for students to learn. We've met with our instructional coaches who have been doing some work with the new Teacher Center. The new Teacher Center is a support system who helps our mentors and also helps many of our teacher leaders. And so now our instructional coaches are really going through the coaching cycles in MTSS and how they can really help their grade level meetings when they're having those conversations, and how to support each and every learner through the MTSS system. And then lastly, instructional coaches are really working to support our collaborative learning communities or our professional learning communities, and really to look at where are the students' gaps in learning and how do we close them using Tier 1, 2, and 3. Number 3, this one has significant progress. It's really about our career pathways. And as we've talked about, how we've gone from 6 available career pathways that we've upped that to 13 this year. So they've made great progress with that. And a really exciting thing is that our 8th graders this year have registered through career clusters, which hasn't happened as aggressively as has this year. So they can really look at their 4-year plan and develop something in a career that they would be interested in. So that's been an exciting piece and a new addition, and I thank David Moeller and his crew for all of that work. If we look at number 4, this is operational, and it was really our plan when we talked about changing graduation requirements. We talked about how can we have a 9th grade seminar course to really look on best practices to support students in that transition from 8th to 9th grade, because we know sometimes that's where we really need that extra support. And so that course has been designed, developed, and students are registered for it and ready to go in the fall. So that's really exciting that we've really checked that off and made that operational, so we're ready to go for the next school year. The next one we're going to talk about is number 6, and that one is making steady progress. And that's really to increase students' connections through additional extracurricular activities. And one thing that we really thought to look at is esports. And so Joe and Colby have been actively engaged with Dubuque Esports League. Actually, Colby actually joined their board, so good job, Colby. But we surveyed our students 9 through 12, and we found that we have about 120 students that are interested in joining some form of an esports league, which is fantastic. And so we're working on a partnership with Dubuque Esports right now, and hopefully get that up and running by the fall of next year. And just to go back at number 5, that was the one that Julia spoke on, so I won't go back and review that one. Number 7, this is also making steady progress. It's to review and enhance our behavior programming and supports to assure a safe learning environment. And really, Mimi and her team, working with assistant principals, working with liaisons, working with counselors, has really put together a plan and put that into play at our secondary schools in particular. She's been working on an updated policy. As we talked about that a little bit last month, and she'll be ready to bring that, the new findings to you here in March. But one of the most exciting things is Mark and Lisa are hosting a elementary and secondary leadership behavior solutions workshop on March 7th and 8th. And so they're taking leadership off-site to really focus on the behavior solutions material. So that's an exciting 2 days that are coming up. And then we've enhanced our systems of implementing a support system of anybody that exhibits unsafe behaviors. And so that's really been productive this school year as well. Number 8, we're looking at something that we're checking off, and that's to develop a plan to enhance transitional services for students eligible for special education, and that helps to meet their post-secondary expectations. So Brenda Duval and her team have really been working on this new year. Their district's IDA plan was submitted in January, and they are working on submitting that plan, which has to be submitted within 3 years, or implemented within the next 3 years. And so that's really about all secondary special education teachers receiving professional development on transition. And they did receive the first round of that at the February PD Day. So that wraps up our first pillar of student achievement and development. Are there any questions about pillar number 1? Okay, we'll keep moving then. Pillar number 2 is around community engagement. And so Mimi and Shirley, they talked about that first pillar with our family engagement evenings. Number 10, this is making steady progress. It's really about expanding our efforts to engage the broader community and enhance our communication tools. And so one thing that we've done as a district is we've revised our data sharing agreements with community partners. So that's been a success this year. And then another thing we're doing is we're testing a way to use Parent Square so that our district staff are able to use that with parents and families as well, so they won't have to use their own cell phone or their telephone services. They can make direct messages out to families as well. So we're excited about that coming to fruition by the end of the school year. Number 11, this is about significant progress, and we talked about creating a central registration process to reduce barriers for our families. And the enrollment specialist, she started today. So she was happy to be here and went through a lot of training with Amy and Evans and Mike today, which was wonderful. But really, it's about developing that process and how we can better assist families so that they're not having to go from building to building to building and continually fill out all that paperwork and things like that. So we're excited about mainstreaming that process. We did have a successful preschool enrollment online. As you know, this was the first year. We weren't doing like Black Friday and lining up at 5 in the morning. So it was very exciting that that process went online. It went very smoothly and many people were very happy with the change. And then work is underway to launch new online enrollment forms to all of our new families coming to the district. And lastly, in this pillar, we really continue to enhance school business partnerships in the post-COVID landscape. And so we know that schools are continuing to strengthen those partnerships. And they have those individual partnerships with each and every building that help them with a variety of things. I know a lot of our community partners even helped out with parent-teacher conferences and, supplying food to our staff during that time, which is much appreciated. We've really worked at the beginning of the year about that outreach with business partners for the bond referendum. And we cannot thank those businesses that invited us in to have those conversations and were really, helped us get that information out to the greater community. We have some training scheduled in March to offer school leadership sessions about best practices and resources for strengthening those business partnerships. So as Mike and his team are organizing those opportunities for our leadership team. And then we're looking at right now development of a new sponsorship program for our district activities and athletics. With a new scoreboard going up and finding different ways that we can allow sponsors to support our district in ways that we haven't done in the past. So I look forward to Joe and Mike's work moving forward in that area.
I'd be interested, Amy, sometime in seeing the list of our current school business partners
Okay.
by school, just so we can affirm that as we're doing work in the community.
Absolutely. Well, we can bring that to facilities or ed programs.
Perfect,
For sure.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, the next pillar is effective resource management. And so Brenda and Lisa talked about the preschool, which again is making significant progress, and we can't wait for that to be open and have kiddos running around in our preschool in the fall. Number 14, this is a check mark for us as completed. So it's continue facility planning and community outreach on the bond referendum. And so for this particular priority, the district, we're continuing to analyze that post-election data and then really working with our stakeholders to see what are the next steps for the district when we talk about bond referendums in the future. And lastly, that was number 18. That was about the virtual days, and I think Greg did a great job of summing those up. And those are operational, because we believe that we will move forward, continue moving forward with those virtual learning days. The last pillar is around employee excellence. And so if we look at number 16, we talk about that having significant progress. It's enhancing the district's employee onboarding process. I know Brenda and her team have been in to talk to us, and we've had a paraprofessional talk about what that onboarding looked like, because we know as new paraprofessionals join us, it's really important for them to have appropriate training and the skill set to handle any situation that they may come into as they're in our classrooms or in different educational settings in our schools. So we look to get feedback from the current paraprofessionals that had that training that was offered 3 times this year, and really see on ways that we can make improvements to that training and see if we need to do those offerings more frequently. Number 17, this has made steady progress. Continue to strengthen and enhance employee recruitment and retention efforts. As we know, retention and recruitment is one of our highest priorities as we're moving into the spring to get negotiations and to get our contracts out. And so really looking at still attending those area career fairs for those recruitment events. And then also we're doing some increased advertising and looking at our marketing campaign to have different visuals and marketing promotional materials as we get out there and try to promote. As you know, we have the new bus that we showed you that's been fully wrapped, fully renovated, and we can't wait to take that bus out this spring and summer to some of our events, not only for registration for our families, but for recruitment of our staff as well. And lastly, we're making steady progress on exploring enhancements of district-supported staff wellness initiatives. This is something that we've been working on and we've been picking away at it. And just this year, since the new year, we've offered times for staff to come into our buildings and do some walking when the weather wasn't so great, but now it's 72 degrees out, so pretty sure most people are walking outside. But we also opened up our weight rooms for our staff to be able to utilize our weight rooms. And then one of our most exciting things was we were able to have a pickleball event. We had that pickleball event last weekend, and we had 25 teams register for our first ever. And they said, can we do this every weekend? And, I think Mimi and Joe and Brian thought that event was gonna go from about 9 to noon, and they would have stayed 9 till midnight if we would have let them. So great turnout, great sportsmanship, and just lots of fun. And so it was good to see. It was fun to see our schools put together teams and really want to come together and just really have a good time. And there was no arguments, no bad calls, right? I mean, we got along great. It was wonderful. They all dressed up and dressed like it was great. So great event for our district that we should be very proud of. So really that summarizes where we're at today with our priority initiatives and our updates. So are there any questions about our current priority initiatives? And if not, I think we're gonna move forward to have a little bit of discussion continued from our last strategic planning meeting where we really talked about our mission, our vision, our board goals, and then our 4 pillars. So, Mike, do you want to lead that discussion?
Sure. So we thought we would just take a step back and kind of go through all the pieces again, just as a revisiting of where we started last time, and then just go from there. So again, where we left last time was really maintaining the mission statement as it stands. So I just put that up there kind of as a refresher. Then that moves us into the vision of the district, which again stayed the same after the last discussion. And then from that piece, moved on to the where we focused most of our discussion really at the last meeting in terms of the board values. And so you'll see here my attempt to take the sentiment that you expressed at that meeting, and as you requested, bring back a draft for you that hopefully does a more effective job of communicating the kind of feel that you desired while hitting the main points that you wish to touch on. So I know you received all this in your packet. But I would just stop here and certainly welcome however you would like to approach this next step of reviewing this and suggesting changes that is it on track, is it not on track? And as I think I said in the last meeting, I'd take none of this personally, so if you said scrap it and start over, that's part of the process. So, but again, presented for your consideration after the last discussion.
Thanks, Mike. We spent a considerable amount of time on this, trying to make the language that we use have a warmer, more student-focused tone that maybe wasn't as focused on technology or necessarily innovation as the cornerstone of the message that we wanted to get across. I really like the way these are rewritten because I think it really keeps the student at the center. I like the emphasis on individuality, diversity, and relationships. So whether you need emotion or not, I really like the way that these have been rewritten to summarize what the board feels are our most important values.
Thank you. Just from a protocol standpoint, so there is no board action required at this point. So we would anticipate that upon your consensus, we would include this in the strategic plan that's presented to you in May, and it would be approved as part of that process. So there's no formal action needed at this point.
Mike, in the third bullet, what does with unwavering certainty mean to you?
Really, what it meant was my impression that that's really a non-negotiable, that we should do that with unwavering certainty, like all the time. It should be an expected piece all the time.
And as I read them, I know it'd be disappointing if I didn't wordsmith it. The notion of each bullet starting with "we must" certainly shows intent. We will might be an even stronger way to say, these are such important values to this board that we make a commitment to our stakeholders that this is what we will do because we value those things. Not a hill to die on, but I think it is a stronger statement than we must. We must could imply that we will if we can. So just a thought on that.
I could support that. We will.
I could as well.
Me too.
I like that.
There are my need to words.
I knew there had to be.
I know, but you went with it. What's with that?
Process.
Mike, with all of our voices being thrown out, as we say, spaghetti in the wall, I thought you did
Yes.
a great job capturing all of our voices in like a one page or so. You did a great job.
Thank you.
As always, you and your team.
Thank you.
I agree, and I think this really captures what I think this board does prioritize and what you bring as well, Amy, in your vision for the strategic plan, so it's great.
Mike, I also thought it was tremendous, and I did like the idea, though, the one change from we must, we will. I like that also.
That's an easy change, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you need more from us about it?
Well, no,
Praise
no,
about
so
how
the
much we
other,
loved it?
the other thing that we wanted to do then was just again revisit the goal areas, just to, and to kind of refresh where we were, to make sure we're still feeling on the same page now that we've had some time to reflect on it. So again, student achievement and development remained unchanged from the current version. Family and community engagement stayed essentially the same except for the title, which is now family and community engagement rather than just community engagement to impress the importance of the family component of that. And then effective resource management stayed unchanged from the current version. And then, I'm sorry, I should have, I did not remove that slide. I thought I grabbed that out of there. So I believe that we left it at let me just see the current one. I apologize that I did not get that slide in correctly. So it was the second version on the screen was where we left it. The first one on the screen there was the kind of initial conversation, and it led us to the second, which is largely the same as the current version with the addition of retain, recruit, and develop, and then a few minor just structure changes there to be in alignment.
Yeah.
I think it looks good.
Me too.
Okay, then I think from our perspective, we have everything you need. Thank you.
It went smoothly.
Yeah.
And especially your team that
Yeah,
put it together.
good job, yeah.
Are there any other items for this meeting tonight?
I personally just love to thank my team, or our team that's out here. They didn't have to stay here tonight, but you do almost all this work that's in these priority initiatives. So I appreciate everything that you do for our kids every single day. So thanks for being here and being supportive of this tonight. So keep up the good work, right? Yeah.
Good job, team. We have subcommittee meetings next week.
Yeah.
On Monday and Wednesday at 4.
Well, I think I would add another one as Amy, encourages her team. I think we have a responsibility to say thank you to Amy and her leadership as well, because a lot of this doesn't happen unless you empower the team to do great work, and so we're truly thankful for you.
Well said.
Well said. Anything else tonight? All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.